Welcome back, my dear friend. Last time we discovered the rise of Route 66, the road of hope, freedom, and adventure. But every road has turns. In this episode, we will see how the Mother Road began to fade, how towns grew silent, and how memories kept alive. Stay with me as we continue the journey. In the late 1950s, change arrived like a storm. The government began to build a new interstate highway system. These new roads were straight, wide, and fast. They cut across the country with smooth lines, bypassing the curves, hills, and small towns of Route 66. For drivers, the new highways were convenient. You could travel faster, reach your destination more quickly, and avoid the long stops in tiny towns. For businesses along Route 66, however, it was the beginning of the end. A family that once stopped for burgers in a roadside diner now drove past on the interstate. A truck that once filled up at Joe's gas station now used a bigger station near the new road. The lifeblood of the small towns was slowly cut off. Imagine a motel that had been full every night during the golden years. Neon signs glowing, children splashing in the pool, parents carrying heavy suitcases into the room. Then, one day, the stream of cars slowed. The owner sat behind a desk, waiting. One car arrived, then none at all. The neon sign still flashed, but there were no eyes to see it. For people who lived along Route 66, it felt like watching a friend die slowly. In Oklahoma, one gas station owner remembered the change. He said, "We used to see cars all day, every day. Families, soldiers, kids on our first trip. Then, when the interstate opened, the road went quiet. It was like someone closed the door." By the 1960s, the decline was clear. Many businesses closed their doors forever. Windows were boarded up. Signs faded in the sun. Restaurants that once smelled of fresh pie and coffee now smelled of dust and emptiness. The highway itself began to fall apart. With fewer cars, some stretches of pavement cracked and broke. Grass grew through the edges. Bridges aged without repair. Route 66, once a proud mother road, was turning into a forgotten path. But the decline of the road was not only something you could see in broken pavement and empty towns. It was also something you could feel in the lives of real people. Every cafe, every gas station, every motel had its own story. And when the cars disappeared, these stories turned into memories of loss. Let me share with you a few of them. Instead of only numbers and maps, the decline was felt most strongly in personal stories. Let me tell you about Mary, who owned a small diner in Texas with her husband. In a small town in Texas, there was a woman named Mary who ran a diner with her husband. During the 1950s, their place was always full. Travelers loved Mary's cherry pies and her husband's strong coffee. Truck drivers parked outside, filling the air with the sound of engines and laughter. But when the interstate opened a few miles away, the cars disappeared. One day, Mary baked 6 pies. Just like always, only one slice was sold. She gave the rest away to neighbors because she could not stand to throw them out. Within 2 years, the diner closed. Mary sat by the window of her empty cafe, watching dust blow across the parking lot. She said later, "It wasn't just a business that died. It was our way of life." Mary's story was not the only one. Further west in Arizona, a man named Jack ran a small gas station with his 2 sons. Further west in Arizona, a man named Jack ran a small gas station with his 2 sons. For decades, they worked together. Jack pumped gas, his older son checked oil, and the younger son washed windshield with a smile. Families loved stopping there, not only for fuel, but for the kindness. But when traffic moved to the interstate, the station went quiet. Weeks passed without enough customers to pay the bills. Jack's sons left for bigger cities, looking for work. The pumps grew rusty, and weeds pushed up to the cracks in the concrete. Jack stayed for years, hoping the cars would return, but they never did. Finally, he locked the doors, leaving behind maps, oil cans, and a dusty cash register that would never ring again. And it was not just the adults who felt the loss. Children growing up along the Mother Road also carried memories. One young girl, Anna, remembered her family's motel in Missouri. In Missouri, a young girl named Anna grew up beside Route 66. She remembered standing on the porch of her family's motel, waving at passing cars. Sometimes children waved back, and she dreamed of traveling west with them. Her father built the motel himself, and her mother washed sheets every day to welcome guests. But when Anna turned 12, everything changed. The new interstate opened and the cars stopped coming. The motel room stayed empty. Her parents argued at night, worried about money. Anna saw her father paint vacancy on the sign every morning, though no one came. Years later, as an adult, she returned to the same place. The motel was broken, the sign was gone, and trees grew where cars once parked. She said softly, "It feels like my childhood was erased." By the 1970s, parts of Route 66 were already closed or renamed. Some sections were replaced with numbers like Interstate 40 or Interstate 44. People who had once lived by the sound of engines now listened to silence. A small-town diner owner told his daughter, "This road gave us life, and now it is taking it away." The girl remembered the words even years later when the diner stood empty. The final blow came in 1985. That year, Route 66 was officially removed from the U.S. highway system. It was no longer recognized as a national road. For many, it felt like erasing history with a single decision. Towns that once thrived were left behind. Shamrock in Texas, Seligman in Arizona, and many others became quiet shadows of their former selves. Buildings stood like empty shells, whispers of laughter and music lost in the wind. Travelers who still drove the old road described the sadness. They saw ghost towns, broken signs, and motels where weeds grew through cracked parking lots. They said it was like driving through the memory of a dream. And yet, even in its decline, Route 66 held something powerful. It carried stories in its dust. Every diner wall, every gas station pump, every empty motel room remembered the lives that had passed through. The Mother Road was dying, but its spirit had not disappeared. For the people who once lived and worked along the road, the memories were too strong to let go. An old mechanic in New Mexico said, "I fixed cars for 30 years on this road. I saw kids grow up in the back seats. I saw soldiers going off to war." You don't forget a road like that. Though Route 66 was no longer official, in the hearts of many Americans, it was still alive. The official end of Route 66 in 1985 broke many hearts. For some people, it was as if a piece of America had been erased. But memories are stronger than signs, and legends do not die so easily. Almost as soon as Route 66 disappeared from the official map, a movement began to save it. Local people, historians, and travelers refused to forget the Mother Road. They started groups to protect the old towns, to repair the broken signs, and to share the stories of the past. One of the leaders was a barber from Seligman, Arizona, named Angel Delgadillo. He loved Route 66 and saw how his town was dying when the interstate bypassed it. Instead of giving up, he fought back. He gathered friends, wrote letters, and spoke to media. He said, "Route 66 is not just a road. It is our life, our memory, and our history." His passion inspired many others. In 1987, the first Route 66 Association was formed in Arizona. Soon, other states created their own associations. These groups organized events, clean up old landmarks, and encouraged tourists to visit. They worked to keep the Mother Road alive, not as a highway, but as a heritage. Music also kept the spirit alive. The famous song, Get Your Kicks on Route 66, was recorded again and again by different artists. Chuck Berry, the Rolling Stones, and many more. Each version brought the rhythm of the old road back to life. When people heard the lyrics naming the towns, they felt the pull of the journey, the desire to drive and see it all for themselves. Movies and television added to the memory. In the 1960s, there was a TV show simply called Route 66. It followed two young men traveling the road in a Corvette, searching for adventure. Later, in 2006, the animated movie Cars told the story of a forgotten town on Route 66. It showed children and adults alike how progress had hurt small towns, but also how love and memory could bring them back. The movie touched millions of hearts and introduced a new generation to the Mother Road. Travel writers and photographers also played a part. They drove the old sections of Route 66, taking pictures of faded neon signs, rusty gas pumps, and lonely motels. They wrote about the people they met, old diner owners, retired mechanics, and local guides who remembered the golden days. Their books and articles spread across the world, turning Route 66 into an international legend. Tourists from Europe, Japan, and many other countries began to arrive. They wanted to see the America of the past, the America of open highways and small towns. They wanted to eat in classic diners, sleep in roadside motels, and take pictures with the historic Route 66 signs. For them, the road was not dead. It was alive in their imagination, and they came to make it real. In towns that had once been empty, businesses slowly reopened. An old gas station in Illinois was restored as a museum. A cafe in New Mexico painted its walls bright red and blue, welcoming travelers again. In Oklahoma, a round barn built in 1898 was saved and turned into a landmark. Each place told its own story, and together they rebuilt the memory of Route 66. Festivals and car shows brought even more life. Classic cars lined the streets, shiny Mustangs, Corvettes, and Thunderbirds. Music filled the air, and people danced to old rock and roll. Locals sold food, crafts, and souvenirs, proud to share their heritage. For a weekend, the towns felt alive again, like the golden years had returned. What made this revival so powerful was not just the buildings or the cars. It was a feeling. Travelers felt connected to past. They felt the romance of a road where millions had laughed, cried, and dreamed. They felt part of something bigger, a shared memory that stretched across generations. For older Americans, Route 66 was a reminder of their youth. They remembered sitting in the back of a car, watching the world pass by. For younger people, it was a chance to touch history, to experience a piece of America that was both real and legendary. Even though Route 66 was no longer an official highway, it became something more, a symbol of resilience. It showed that even when times change, and even when roads are replaced, stories can still survive. It showed that memory is powerful enough to rebuild towns, reopen doors, and bring strangers together. One traveler from France said, "I came to America to see Route 66. For me, it is not just a road. It is a dream. It is freedom." Another tourist from Japan wrote, "Driving Route 66 is like stepping into a movie. Everything feels familiar, even though it is my first time here." These voices joined the chorus, proving that Route 66 was no longer just American. It had become a road for the world. By the 1990s and 2000s, Route 66 signs reappeared in many states. They were no longer official, but they carried the word historic. Drivers once again smiled when they saw the number 66 on a shield. They took photos, bought T-shirts, and carried a piece of the Mother Road home with them. In the end, Route 66 survived not by asphalt, but by love, It survived because people remembered, because they cared, and because they wanted to keep telling the story. Today, Route 66 is no longer a main highway. Most of its pavement has been replaced by modern interstates. But the Mother Road is far from gone. It survives as a historic trail, as a memory, and as a living experience for people from around the world. Travelers still come to drive the old sections of Route 66. They do not come for speed or convenience. They come for the feeling. They come for the spirit of freedom and discovery. Imagine setting out on a trip today. You turn onto a road marked Historic Route 66. The asphalt may be cracked, the lines faded, but your heart beats faster. You know you are following the same path as millions before you. Along the way, you find small towns that still celebrate their connection to the Mother Road. Some places look frozen in time. Neon signs have been repaired, diners still serve burgers and fries, and motels welcome guests with vintage charm. In these towns, Route 66 is more than history, it is daily life. Tourists take photographs with murals or giant cowboy statues. Motorcycle riders from Europe and Asia roll in, their leather jackets covered with patches. They drink coffee in old diners, listening to jukeboxes play rock and roll. Laughter and camera clicks mix with the sound of engines. Museums along the road tell the story of the Mother Road. Inside, you see vintage cars, old gas pumps, and postcards from the golden years. Guides explain how people once traveled with only hope in their hearts. For visitors, it feels like stepping into a time machine. Some travelers try to follow the entire length, from Chicago to Los Angeles. It takes days, sometimes weeks. Each stop becomes a piece of the puzzle, reminding them that Route 66 is not one place, but many. Festivals keep the memory alive, too. Classic cars line the streets, music fills the air, and locals proudly share their stories. For a moment, the golden years return. Today, Route 66 is sometimes called a museum on wheels. Every mile is like an exhibit. A diner restored, a bridge preserved, a mural painted. But unlike a normal museum, you do not just look, you live inside it. Driving the Mother Road today is not about reaching Los Angeles quickly. It is about slowing down, feeling the wind, and remembering that life itself is a journey. This is the magic of Route 66. It carries a past, but it still gives meaning in the present. In the first part, we saw the road's birth in its golden years, how it carried families through the Dust Bowl, and how it became the shining highway of freedom and adventure. In this second part, we saw how it faded from the map, how towns grew silent, and how people fought to keep its memory alive. Today, Route 66 is no longer the main road, but it still lives on in music, in movies, and in the hearts of travelers who continue to follow its path. It reminds us that life is not only about destinations. It is about the journey, the stops, the stories, and the memories we create along the way. Thank you, my dear friend, for joining me. I hope this story helped you practice your English, but also gave you a piece of history and a sense of wonder. And if you want to know what comes next, don't miss our next story, another journey through American history and culture. Until then, may your own road be filled with open skies, kind strangers, and the courage to keep moving forward. See you again in the next story.